In my last life, while clearing mines, I took a shot for Chinlay. I lost both legs. 3 months later, my fiancée married him. I lay in a convalescent home for 7 years. And the last person to come was the body collector, Reborn, and sent back 3 seconds before the thunder struck. I stared at Chinlay's back. I drew back the hand I had just reached out. The moment the earthy smell of the minefield seeped into my nose, I knew I had come back. Malapo on the border of Inan. April. Mist seeped up from the red earth beneath my feet, as if the dead spirits underground were breathing. I looked down at my own legs. They were still there, knees bent, feet firmly planted on the ground, calf muscles tense. The last time these 2 legs had any sensation in my previous life was right here. Lin Yen, watch your step. Area No. 3 has been marked. Prepare to move forward. Instructor Wang Deming's voice came through the walkie-talkie, and I looked up ahead. Chinlay's back was 3 m away. He was wearing the same protective suit as I was, holding a mine detector in his right hand, and was stepping toward the area marked high risk in my previous life. It was this very step. His mine detector failed to detect a Type 72 antipersonnel mine the moment he stepped on it. I lunged forward and pinned him underneath me with my body. The bomb went off. Shrapnel tore through the hem of my protective suit and embedded itself in both of my legs. Broken bone shards pierced my muscle. The blood turned the red earth black. Chenli survived. My legs were gone. And then Su Qing married him. Their wedding was on the 93rd day after my surgery. I never received an invitation at the convalescent hospital. I saw it while scrolling through my moments. The photo showed her in a white veil leaning against his shoulder, smiling, and the location tag was the hotel we had chosen when we got engaged. I stared at Chinlay's back 3M. In my previous life, took me less than a second to rush over. 1 second for 7 years on a sick bed for a ruined body rotting away in a wheelchair. For Suchin's words, Linwan, there's been no love left between us for a long time. You're paralyzed and I can't possibly stay by your side for the rest of my life. Chunlei is more ambitious. You should bless us. My hand clenched tightly. Ben loosened again. Chunlei turned back and smiled at me. Brother Yen, I'll move into this area first. You keep an eye on the right flank. I nodded. He turned back and kept walking. The mine detector emitted an odd sound. Very short. So brief that if he hadn't experienced it once before, he would never have noticed what that frequency meant. Chinlei's foot hung in midair. At this time in my past life, I had already rushed out. In this life, I stood where I was. 1 second, 2 seconds. Chinlei's foot came down. A dull thud, not the earth-shaking roar you hear in movies. It was a muffled puff like someone had forcefully slapped wet mud. Then soil, gravel, and some kind of warm liquid splashed onto my goggles. I didn't move. The radio exploded into chaos. Position 3 exploded. Position 3 exploded. Medic, medic, get up here. Chinlei, can you hear me? I slowly raised my hand and wiped away the grime on my goggles. Chinlei was lying 3 m away. The lower half of his protective suit was gone. His eyes were still open and his lips were moving, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. Maybe he was crying out in pain. Maybe he was crying for help. Maybe he was calling out Brother Yen. I crouched down, took off my gloves, and pressed my hand to the ground. The red soil was a little warm. I didn't know whether it had been heated by the sun or warmed by blood. The medic rushed over and pushed me away. Someone grabbed my shoulders and shouted, Linwan, are you hurt? Are you injured? I stood up. Both legs were planted firmly on the ground. No shrapnel, no broken bones, no wheelchair, no smell of disinfectant mixed with urine and feces from a nursing home. I'm fine, I said. My voice was flat, so flat that even I felt unfamiliar with it. Chinlei was carried away. 20 minutes later, the medic's voice came over the walkie-talkie with only 1 sentence. Personnel at position 3. Chinlei failed to be resuscitated. Someone nearby cursed under their breath, and someone squatted down, covering their face. I stood at the edge of the minefield, looking up at the sun overhead. The April sun wasn't especially fierce, but it stabbed my eyes with searing pain. At this point in my previous life, I was already on the operating table. The anesthesia still hadn't taken effect, and I could feel the bone saw cutting into my leg bone. Now I'm standing here in one piece. Chinley, what you owed me in my past life, I don't want any more in this one. I owe no one anything. The news of Chinley's sacrifice was sent back to the base that same day. I was assigned to psychological counseling. A female military doctor wearing glasses asked me to describe what I felt when it happened. And I said 3 words. I can't remember. She nodded and wrote a line in her notebook. I caught a glimpse of it. The subject exhibits traumatic avoidance and requires ongoing attention. I didn't correct her. Back at the dorm, there were 17 unread messages on my phone sent by Suchin. I opened them one by one. Brother Yen, are you okay? I just saw the news saying something happened over there. Reply to me quickly. Lin Yen. The interval between each message was about 3 to 5 minutes. The tone escalated progressively from concern to anxiety to anger. A textbook normal reaction of a fiancée when she can't get in touch with her boyfriend. In my past life, I would have felt warm seeing these messages. This life, I only feel that it's too textbook-like. I sent a message back. It's okay. I wasn't hurt. Chinley left. The message was sent and read. She did not reply immediately. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes. I stared at the screen. In my last life, I wouldn't have noticed such details because by then I was already in the ICU and had no chance at all to look at my phone. But in this life, these 8 minutes of silence were more honest than any tears. At the 9th minute, a reply came. Chinley, how could that be? Isn't he right next to you? My thumb hovered above the screen. Her first reaction wasn't, thank goodness you're okay. It was, how could something have happened to Chinley? And that wasn't he right beside you? What is the subtext of this sentence? You were beside him, so why didn't you save him? Or, you were beside him, so shouldn't you have been the one who got hurt? I didn't know. I don't want to know either. Disarming minds is risky. Could happen to anyone. I replied with that sentence, then placed my phone face down on the bed. La Jiao, who was on the opposite bunk, walked in with red eyes. Seeing me sitting on the edge of the bed, he froze for a moment. Brother Yen, you okay? I looked at him. Xiao Guodong, one of the longest-serving comrades I had in the army after I became paralyzed in my previous life. He came to see me once, just once. He brought a carton of milk, said, bro, take good care of yourself, and then never showed up again. Later, I heard from my caregiver that, after leaving the army, old Xiao went into business, made a fortune, and bought 2 apartments in Cunning. I was never in his. I'm fine, I said. Lo Xiao sat down on Chinley's empty bunk and remained silent for a long time. Then he said one sentence. At the time, you were the closest to him. Wasn't there time? I looked up at him. His expression was very complex. Not like an accusation, more like some kind of confusion. But that wasn't important. What mattered was that on the very night when Chinley's body was still cold, these words came out of a brother's mouth. In my previous life, I blocked it for Chinley. Everyone said, Lin Wan is a real man. But after saying that, what then? Not a single person blocked anything for me. It's too late, I said. La Jiao nodded and didn't ask any more questions. But the way he looked at me had changed. The change was very subtle, like he was looking at someone he suddenly didn't quite recognize. At 2:00 in the morning, the phone vibrated. Suching sent a voice message. I opened it. She was crying. Her voice was kept very low, as if she were afraid her roommates would hear. Linen, I've been thinking, Chinley, when we last met, we even made plans to have hot pot together. How could he just be gone? I listened to her sobs and played the voice message from beginning to end. 47 seconds. Cried 3 times. Mentioned Chinley's name 4 times. Mentioned my name 0 times. I never heard this voice message in my previous life because at this time in my previous life, I was the hero, and Suchin sent, Brother Yuan, you're so brave. I'm so worried about you. Now someone else is playing the role of the hero. The dead man she was crying over was the same one. I put the phone back beside the pillow and closed my eyes. In the darkness, the crack in the nursing home ceiling from my last life surfaced before my eyes. 7 years. I stared at that crack for 7 years. It will never happen in this lifetime. Chinlei's memorial service was held 3 days later. The troops are very skilled at this kind of ceremony. Black cows, white flowers. The portrait placed in the center. On both sides hung memorial couplets which read, "Comrade Chinlei, the mind-clearing hero, will live forever in our hearts." I stood in the second row. The first row is for the leaders and Chinlei's family. His father came alone, an old man in his 60s. His back already bent and he didn't shed a single tear from beginning to end. He just kept running his hand over the frame of the portrait as if he were touching his son's face. I looked away. Sachin came. She took leave and came from the provincial capital wearing a black dress with her hair tied into a low ponytail, her face very pale. When she arrived, she came to find me first. "Brother Yen." She took my hand, her fingers icy cold. "Are you okay this time?" She remembered to ask me. I looked at her face. At 25, Sachin had very nice skin, long eyelashes, and lips that looked a little thin because they were pressed tightly together. In my last life, I thought it was the most beautiful face in the world. Now it looks about the same as the promotional posters behind the checkout counter at a convenience store. Nice to look at, but nothing to do with me. "I'm fine." She nodded, her eyes red. Then she looked at the portrait in the center of the funeral hall, and her body visibly stiffened. I noticed her fingers tightening around the bag strap. Her knuckles turned white. After the memorial service ended, the family members and representatives of her comrades went to the cafeteria to sit down. Old Xiao sat down beside me with a teacup, looking like he wanted to say something, but holding back. Finally, after the third glass of water had been finished, he spoke. "Brother Yen, I'm not questioning you, but a lot of the guys are asking." He lowered his voice. "Given what happened back then, were you really too late?" I put down my chopsticks. "What do you think?" My tone left him at a loss. He gave an awkward laugh and said, "I was just asking casually. I'll give you a quick reply, too." I looked into his eyes. If I had rushed up there, the one lying in that frame right now would be me. "Would you ask Chinlei, were you too late?" Old Xiao's expression changed. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. A few comrades nearby heard that and froze, their chopsticks stopping midair. The air went cold for a few seconds. Lion, sitting across from me, suddenly cut in. "Brother Yen is right. It would be the same for anyone who could react in a situation like that." I never said he was wrong. Lao Xiao said anxiously, "I'm just asking on behalf of the brothers." "Finished asking," I said. He fell silent. Sachin sat in the corner holding a glass of water she hadn't drunk. She didn't look at me the whole time. Her gaze had been fixed on the direction of the memorial portrait, empty as if she were staring into another world. After the memorial service ended, Suing and I walked out of the cafeteria together. When she passed the flower bed in the camp area, she suddenly stopped. "Brother Yen, have you ever thought?" Her voice was very soft. "If you had," then she didn't finish. But I understood. If I had rushed up at that moment, could I have saved him? I finished for her. She bit her lip. "Sachin." I turned around to face her. "You're asking me why I didn't go and die." She suddenly looked up. "I didn't mean it like that." "What do you mean by that?" Her lips trembled. But in the end, she said nothing. She turned around and quickly walked toward the guest house. I watched her back. "In my past life." "You didn't need to ask that question because in my past life, I rushed up. Then you went and married him. In this life, I didn't rush. Your first reaction wasn't relief that I was still alive. It's a pity he died." "Sachin, when did you start loving him? Was it after I became paralyzed or before that?" Soon I would know the answer. Chinlei's belongings needed to be sorted, packed, and sent back to his hometown, according to the rules. This should have been done by someone from the platoon. The platoon leader chose me and La Xiao. I didn't refuse. Chinlei's locker wasn't very big, and his clothes were folded fairly neatly. 2 sets of everyday clothes, 1 set of training gear, and a few pairs of socks. Underneath was an iron box containing old family photos and a bracelet. His phone was under the pillow. It had already been turned off because it hadn't been charged. The platoon leader found a charging cable, plugged it in, and after it powered on, recorded the contact list information for notifying his family and friends. The phone lit up. The lock screen password is 6 digits. The squad leader frowned and entered Shinlei's birthday. Wrong. Does anyone know his phone password? The squad leader asked. No one answered. I stood nearby. In my previous life, I knew this password because in my previous life, when Shinlei came to the nursing home to see me, he unlocked it in front of me. He didn't avoid me. Then what was there to hide from a who had had both legs amputated? 6 figures. 031207. Sachin's birthday. March 12th. Try 031207. I said. The platoon leader glanced at me and entered it. It unlocked. How did you know? Old Xiao asked. I saw him solve it once before. Liao didn't ask any further. The platoon leader started flipping through the contact list. My gaze fell on the screen. The number on the top right corner of the WeChat icon, 147 unread messages. Chunlei had been dead for 3 days and no one had cleaned up his social media account. The platoon leader exited the contacts list and was about to turn off his phone. Platoon leader, I said, the family may need some of his photos. Electronic copies. I can go through the album and make a copy. The platoon leader thought for a moment and nodded. Go ahead. When you're done, give them to me. He left. I was the only one left in the dorm. I opened WeChat chat. The first pinned conversation nicknamed Chin. The profile picture is Sachin's selfie. The last message was sent at 2 a.m. on the day of the incident. Sent by Sachin. Be careful tomorrow. I'll wait for you to come back. Kiss. I scrolled up one by one. I miss you. When can you take leave and come out? I've been wearing that bracelet from last time all along. Don't tell Lin Yuan. My finger stopped on this message. Timestamp. 2 months before the incident. 2 months ago. Back then, I was still carrying out missions as usual with both legs perfectly fine. And I had a video call with Sachin once a week. I kept scrolling upward. The chat history spanned 8 months. 8 months ago. That was in September of last year. Sachin came to visit me at the base and stayed for 3 days. When she left, Chinlei drove her to the train station. Turned out that it had started from that time. I was kept in the dark in my past life. In my past life, I thought Sachin only got together with Chunlei after I became disabled and she had given up in despair. I even understood her after all. What 25-year-old woman would want to stay with someone who would be disabled for life? But now these records are telling me she didn't leave because I was crippled. She left when I was still perfectly fine from beginning to end. My sacrifice was not losing her. It was never even having the right to lose her. I took that blow for Chinlei for a man who was cheating on me with my 2 legs in the remaining 7 years of my life. I took a few screenshots of my phone screen and sent them to my own email. Then I cleared the sent records. I turned off my phone and put it back under the pillow. When I stepped out of the dorm, the wind from the hallway rushed in, cold enough to pierce the bones. But I no longer had that suffocating feeling from my past life, because in this life, I have lost nothing. I stood at the end of the corridor. Both legs stood firmly on the ground. The wind blew through my pant legs, and I could feel the muscles in my calves. This sensation is something I couldn't dream my way back to, even after 7 years of dreams in my past life. Chinlei, what you owe me is not just 2 legs. Sachin, what you owe me is not just a wedding. But I no longer want you to pay it back. I only need the day when you can't keep acting anymore. Soon, after Suing returned to the provincial capital, the frequency of her calls to me began to decrease. Before it was once every 2 days. It has now turned into 4 days, then 5 days, then a week. I did not contact her first. The 9th day she finally called. Brother Yen, have you been busy lately? Pretty good. My school is at the end of the semester right now, so I've got quite a lot going on. A classic line of preparatory small talk before gradually disappearing. In her previous life, she used a different line. Brother Yen, take good care of your health. I'll handle a few things on my end first. I went along with her. You do your thing. Silence. Then she said, Lin Yuan, I've been thinking about some things lately. What thing are we moving too fast? I think we can put the engagement on hold for a while. I held the phone tightly. The corners of her mouth curved up unconsciously. in her last life. She didn't need to say that because in my previous life, I was already A and she had every reason to leave. You're paralyzed. I can't take care of you for the rest of my life. The moral pressure wasn't much, and public opinion was more inclined to sympathize with her. But this time, I'm doing just fine. All my limbs are intact and the meritorious recognition for my lineage injury hasn't been approved yet. If she wants to leave, she'll have to find another excuse. Being in a hurry is that excuse. Okay, I said. If you want to take it slow, then take it slow. There was silence on the other end of the phone for a few seconds. She probably hadn't expected me to agree so quickly. You're not angry. Don't be angry then. Okay. Her voice was a little flustered. It's not a breakup. Just let's slow down. I know. He hung up the phone. I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling. There was a crack in the ceiling of the nursing home in my past life, stretching all the way from the light fixture to the window frame. I stared at it for 7 years. The dormitory ceiling had been freshly whitewashed, clean as a blank sheet of paper. There was nothing on it. There never would be anything on it again. A week later, old Xiao told me some news. Bro Yang, did you hear? Someone saw sister-in-law come to find Qinlei at the back gate of the camp before. I was cleaning my gun, my hands never stopping. When was this? They said it was last month. The time sister-in-law came to see you. Before leaving, she went around to the logistics building to look for Qinlei. He scratched his head. It should be a coincidence. Probably she just stopped by to say hello. I pushed the bolt back and it clicked. Maybe. Old Xiao glanced at me, seemingly observing my reaction, seeing nothing from my expression. He left. But I know this matter will spread quickly. The military camp is only this big. Qinlei is dead, and all the old matters related to him will be dug up and chewed over. The fact that Suchin came to look for Qinlei is for now still just idle gossip. But once it's put together with the other fragments, it's no longer just idle talk. I'm not in a hurry. In my last life, I waited 7 years before I died. In this life, waiting a few months is nothing. 3 more days passed. Suching Moments was updated with a new post. The picture showed a cup of coffee and a book with the caption, "Learning to let go is a mandatory lesson for adults." Among the people who liked it, there was no me, but there was a name I recognized in the comments section. Qinlei's older cousin. She commented 4 words. Hugua Suching replied, "Thanks, sis." I took a screenshot of this post, put it together with the previous chat records. The chain of evidence is being completed little by little. It's not to sue anyone and it's not to make a scene. It's for someday in the future when everyone points at my nose and says, "You stood by and did nothing." I could smash these things in their faces. Let them see what the person they said was hopeless was doing behind their backs. Let them see who was in the heart of the woman who shed tears for me. A month after Qinlei's sacrifice, the atmosphere in the company began to change. The change began after a political study session. Instructor Wang Deming stayed behind a few people for a heart-to-heart talk, and I was one of them. In the office, he poured me a glass of water. "Linen, how have you been doing lately? Have you gone for counseling? Gone once a week?" Okay. He nodded, tapping his fingers twice on the table. "That the higher-ups in the unit want to recommend Qinlei for a second-ass merit. You know that, right?" "I know. In my last life, this honor was given to me, 3rd-class merit, a certificate, pension payment, and then everyone could feel perfectly justified in dumping me in a convalescent home. Understood. When submitting the materials, we need the statement of the people present at the time." Wang Deming pushed up his glasses. "You're the one who was closest to him, and your testimony is very important. I'll just write down the truth." Yes, just write the truth." He paused. "But you see, in Qinlei's deed materials, if we could include some of his heroic actions at the time, like how after discovering the danger, he took the initiative to go up and investigate, or how he proactively warned you, that sort of thing." I looked at him. He looked a little uneasy under my gaze and coughed awkwardly. "Of course, the main thing is to stick to the facts, but the wording can be suitably polished." Political instructor. I set down my teacup. "What do you want me to write?" "That he stepped on it in order to protect me." A trace of awkwardness flashed across Wang Deming's face. No, no. That's not what I mean. Then what do you mean? He remained silent for a few seconds. Kobayashi, I'll tell you the truth. The higher-ups want to turn Chinlei's deeds into a model example. If it's just a simple accidental sacrifice, it doesn't carry enough weight. But if there's the angle of warning comrades in advance and proactively eliminating a danger made up. I said, political instructor. It's not that I'm unwilling to cooperate. I stood up, but I won't write anything in my statement that never happened. What actually happened was this. His mine detector missed one mine. He stepped on it and it exploded. No one gave a warning, and no one rushed in to save anyone. That's the truth. Wang Deming's face darkened. Lin Wan, this is putting everyone in a difficult position. Who's in a difficult position? Shunlei's family is in a difficult position. The military's publicity work is also in a difficult position. He stood up, his tone hardening a little. You're his comedian arms. What's wrong with cooperating? It's not like we're asking you to give false testimony. Changing the facts is giving false testimony. He looked at me and the warmth in his eyes slowly faded bit by bit. When I walked out of the office, I heard a heavy sigh behind me. That night, old Xiao sat down across from me in the cafeteria. Brother Yen, did the instructor talk to you? My hand never stopped serving up food. Just go along with it a bit. Anyway, it's not some big deal. Xiao Guodong. I called him by his full name. He froze with his chopsticks halfway. If it had been me who died last month, do you think they would have asked Xinlei to cooperate a little to embellish my achievements? La Xiao opened his mouth. I went on. In my previous life, I paused. I almost let it slip. Just post a notice and call it done. What gives a living person the right to make up stories for the dead? La Xiao lowered his head and said nothing more. After that day, people in the company began gossiping about me behind my back. They said I was cold-blooded. He said Chinlei died, and he wasn't sad at all. He said at the time he was the closest to Chinlei. How could he possibly not have had time? He said, could it be that there was some grudge? So he deliberately didn't save him in my past life. I was a hero. The price of being a hero is 2 legs in a lifetime. For this lifetime, I am a cold-blooded person. The price of being cold-blooded is a few idle remarks. I choose the latter. 40 days after Chinlei was killed, the unit held a symposium. Nominally, it was a summary of safety experience in mind-clearing operations. But in reality, it was laying the groundwork for a report on Chinlei's deeds. 2 senior leaders came and sat in the front row. Representatives from each platoon spoke, talking about safety regulations and operational procedures, recited for 40 minutes like a running account. The final segment statements from the parties involved. Wang Deming stood up. Next, please ask Comrade Lin Yuan, the comrade who was closest to Comrade Xinlei at the time of the incident, to talk about what happened then and his thoughts. Everyone looked at me. I stood up, walked up to the front, and faced dozens of eyes below the stage. Some were curious, some sympathetic, and some appraising. There was also one person in the corner, Chinlei's father. He came again. The unit brought him over, saying it was to let the old man take part in his son's memorial activity. The old man still showed no expression. He just sat there, his back hunched, staring at me. Leaders, comrades, I began to speak. My voice was very calm. The situation 40 days ago, I had already written about in the after-action report. The mine detector missed it, and Comrade Chinlei stepped on a mine and was killed. I was 3 m away from him and didn't have time to react. That is the full truth. The hall was quiet for a few seconds. Wan Denning's expression turned somewhat ugly. He probably had hoped I would say something more moving. I GN him, but today I want to say something that wasn't in the report. The atmosphere changed. The leaders in the front row sat up straight. Over these 40 days, many people asked me the same question. You were so close to him at the time. Why didn't you step in and block it? Someone in the audience lowered their head. I want to ask a question in return. My gaze swept across every face. If I go up there, get hit and end up crippled, who among you here will stand in my place and block the rest of my life? Dead silence. If I lose my legs, who will come see me? For how long? A month? A year. 7 years. Old Zhao's face turned pale. If I end up paralyzed in a wheelchair, who will take care of my family for me? My fiancé. My gaze was steady, not fixed on anyone in particular. I thought about it for 40 days. The answer is no one. A leader in the front row shifted slightly forward as if he wanted to say something. I didn't give him the chance. So today, I'm standing here with both of my legs perfectly fine. I don't feel grateful for that, but I don't feel guilty about it either. Mind clearance is a fight in which you wager your life against death. I respect Xinlei's sacrifice, but I have no obligation, and no one has the right to demand it. How one person should trade their life for another. I put the microphone back on the table. I'm done. As I walked back to my seat, the entire conference room was as quiet as a minefield. Only the sound of my footsteps echoed, step by step against the floor. Chunlei's father was still sitting in the corner. He looked at me for a long time, then gave a slight nod. He didn't speak, but that nod carried more weight than any words. An old man who had lost his son was acknowledging that I had no duty to die in his son's place. This was 100 times stronger than those who stood on moral high ground and kept talking about comradeship. After the meeting, Wang Deming didn't look for me. Liao didn't look for me. No one came to see me because no one knew what to say. I walked out of the conference room and the wind in the hallway blew toward me. The wind of April had turned into the wind of June. It was hot, the feeling of being alive. The third day after the symposium, Suching sent me a message. Lin Yuan, I want to see you. I have something to say to you in person. I replied, I'll ask for leave and come out on the weekend. Saturday. A small town 3 kilometers outside the station. A noodle shop. I arrived 10 minutes earlier than she did. I sat by the window and ordered a bowl of beef noodles before the noodles were served. She pushed open the door and came in. She has lost weight. Her cheeks have hollowed out and her chin has become pointed. There are dark circles under her eyes that even her foundation can't cover. She sat down without ordering anything. We looked at each other for 3 seconds. Then she spoke. Lin Yuan, I want to make things clear with you. Go on. We aren't right for each other. She froze for a moment. She probably hadn't expected me to be so calm. You just like this. What else? I picked up a bite of noodles with my chopsticks. What do you want me to do? Cry? Make a scene? Kneel down and beg you not to leave? Her lips pressed together tightly for a moment. I didn't mean that. I just think we should talk properly. Then you tell me. Her hands were on the table, her fingers unconsciously twisting together. After Qinlei's incident, I kept thinking, life is too short and there are so many things you can't just make do with. We've been together for 3 years and I realized that it feels like something is missing between us. Missing what? Missing. She stopped as if searching for the right word. I found one for her. Missing him. She froze. What? I took my phone out of my pocket and opened a screenshot. Chat log. Timestamp. Display name. Chin. That line. Don't tell Lin Yuan. I pushed the phone toward her. She lowered her head and looked at it for a second. 2 seconds. The color drained from his face, leaving it pale and bluish. You. How did you? Qinlei's phone password was your birthday. I took a bite of noodles. When the platoon was sorting through his belongings, I helped unlock it. She jerked her head up, terror and anger mingling in her eyes. You went through his phone. I was helping the unit organize materials and I happened to see it. My voice gave away no emotion. Suchin, how long have you and Qinlei been together? Her lips trembled. She said nothing. 8 months. I asked myself and answered, starting from the last time you came to the camp to see me, the day he took you to the train station. Tears fell from her eyes. Not the kind of crying that comes from feeling wrong at it was the kind of crying that comes from being stripped bare and left standing in front of everyone. Lin Yuan, I didn't do it on purpose. It's not what you think. What's that supposed to mean? He was the one who pursued me first. I turned him down at first. Later, he kept coming after me. I softened. So, it's his fault. I didn't. Suchin. I put down my chopsticks and looked into her eyes. Do you know what expression you were wearing when you just said, "We're not a good fit"? You looked wrong, as if you'd suffered some immense hardship and were forced to make a difficult decision. Her tears stopped and she stared at me. But now that you know I saw those things, What's your first reaction? Fear. You're not afraid of me being upset. You're afraid of your reputation. Her pupils contracted slightly. Linwan, what do you want? The words finally came out. No apology. No explanation. Just ask. What do you want? That's her. That's the person I protected with both my legs in my previous life. I don't want anything. I stood up. I just want you to know every day you were with him behind my back. I knew about it. Your performance of crying at Chenli's memorial service was also very convincing. But you don't need to act anymore. I put the money for the noodles on the table. Let's break up. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. When I walked out of the noodle shop, muffled sobbing came from behind me. I didn't turn around. In my last life, I was in a wheelchair and couldn't turn back. In this life, I'm standing and I choose not to turn around. This is the second decision I have made in my life. The first was not to take that bullet for Chinle. The second was not to cry for Sachin anymore. These two decisions helped me pick back up one by one the things I had lost in my last life. The second week after the breakup, I got a WeChat message from Lao Xiao Bro Yuan. The platoon's having a dinner on Saturday. The last one before discharge. Coming or not? I replied, coming Saturday night. The barbecue stall outside the base. 12 people arrived. Those who had been discharged were discharged. And those who had been reassigned to civilian jobs were reassigned. This was everyone's last meal together. After 3 rounds of drinks, the polite words that needed to be said had been said, and the toasts that needed to be made had been made. The atmosphere at the table began to relax. Old Xiao got drunk and with his arm around the person next to him, cried, "Brothers, from now on, we'll all be scattered to the 4 winds." I sat in the corner and didn't drink much. Then someone brought up Chinle. What a pity. If old Chin were still here, he'd have to pick up the tab for this round. Yeah. He can drink the most. Everyone fell silent for a moment. Then Lao Xiao suddenly turned to look at me. The alcohol made his eyes cloudy but direct. Brother Yen, I've always wanted to ask you, do you have some grudge against Chinle? Everyone at the table looked over. I just can't figure it out. Liao slapped the table hard. 3M away. 3M. How could you possibly not have made it in time? Liao, you've had too much to drink. Lion tried to stop him. I'm not drunk. Lao shook off his hand. I just want to get to the bottom of this. Chenli is my brother. He died and I can't get over it in my heart. His eyes were red as he stared at me, gripping his chopsticks so tightly his knuckles turned white. 11 pairs of eyes across the room were fixed on me. Some of them carried the same question. Some wore awkward expressions. Some lowered their heads and did not dare to look. I picked up the beer on the table and poured mice. I left a full glass. I took a sip. Let it go. Old Xiao, do you want to hear the truth? Go ahead. Fine. Then let me ask you a question. I looked into his eyes. If I had rushed up then and taken that grenade for Chinle and ended up paralyzed with my legs gone sitting in a wheelchair, what would you have done? He was stunned. How many times will you come see me? I once, twice. And then what? You've been discharged. Started a business. Bought a house. Is my name still in your address book? His mouth was open, but no sound came out. I'll ask you one more question. My voice dropped. If I got in the way and ended up crippled, would my fiancée see the woman you call your sister-in-law stay by my side? The air turned cold. No, I answered myself, because she doesn't need to wait until I'm crippled. She was already with Chinle when I was still perfectly fine. Everyone sobered up halfway. What do you mean? Old Xiao's voice trembled. I took out my phone and opened those few screenshots. Chat records, dates, content. I put the phone in the middle of the table. See for yourself. The phone was passed from old Zhao's hand to Lion's, then on to the next person. Each time it was passed, one more person's expression changed. The date was last September. Back then, Brother Yen was still perfectly fine. Damn, Chinle. In the end, the phone returned to La Xiao's hands. He stared at the screen, his hands shaking when he looked up at me. His eyes were full of complicated emotions. Brother Yen, you already knew. I knew, I said. So, you were. Old Xiao. I interrupted him. You asked me why I didn't go up to block it. I'll tell you why. I stood up. It wasn't because it was too late. The entire room fell silent as if someone had hit the mute button. It's not worth it. Why should I risk my life for someone who cheated on me behind my back? I looked at each of their faces. You say I'm cold-blooded. You say I stood by and did nothing while someone was in danger. You think brotherhood among comrades outweighs everything. Fine. Then I ask you, did he, Chinlay, ever treat me like a comrade? When he got involved with my fiancée, did he ever think about this so-called brotherhood? No one said a word. Old Zhao's chopsticks clattered to the floor. I have no obligation to die for someone who betrayed me in this life. No one owes anyone anything. I left the money for the drinks on the table. $300. That should cover this meal. It's over, brothers. Until we meet again. I walked out of the barbecue stand. No one came chasing out behind me. The night wind poured in. The wind at the end of June was hot, but my hands were cold. Not cold, just calm. In my last life, those people all said, "Brother Yen, you're a hero," and then disappeared from the rest of my life. In this life, they learn the truth. Those who should feel guilty do feel guilty. Those who should keep quiet, keep quiet. I don't hate anyone, but I'm no longer going to indulge anyone. The day the discharge paperwork were completed was in July. The sunlight was so glaring that it made it impossible to open one's eyes. I carried my luggage and walked out of the camp gate. Looking back one last time, the row of big red painted characters on the wall was glaringly bright under the sunlight. From this point on, what happened here had nothing to do with me. On the train back to my hometown, I leaned against the window and watched the scenery outside change from border mountains to plains of farmland. The phone rang, once sent by Lao Shao. "Brother Yuan, about last time. I'm sorry, I didn't know about those things before. If you still consider me a brother, let me know if you need anything from now on." I looked at it for a few seconds, replied with a simple okay. It wasn't forgiveness. It was just no longer worth fussing over in his previous life. He had come to see me once. He didn't even need that one chance in this lifetime because I don't need anyone to come see me. The train stopped in the provincial capital for 10 minutes. I didn't get off the train. Suching is right here in the city. But I had no desire at all to see H in my past life. It took 3 months for her to disappear from my life. In this life, it took only one bowl of noodles for her to disappear from my mind. Later, I heard that she quit her job and returned to her hometown in the south. After the relationship on Chimlay's side was exposed, rumors began to spread at school. She couldn't bear it. I didn't sympathize with her, nor did I take shot and Frida in her misfortune. It was like watching a news report that had nothing to do with me. The train kept moving. It was evening when we arrived at the station in the crowd. At the exit, I spotted someone at a glance. And woo, she sold tea at the station exit, pushing a small cart and wearing an old apron. The steam made her hair damp and stick to her forehead. In my previous life, Aunt Wu was a nursing aide at the convalescent home. She took care of me for my last 3 years, turned me over, changed my dressings, and wiped me down every day during the new year. She used her own money to buy me candy the day I died. She was the first to find out. I heard she cried for a long time. I stood in the crowd looking at her. Of course, she didn't know me in this lifetime. She never had the chance to know a crippled man lying in a convalescent home. She was still living her own life, selling tea eggs, earning 30 to 40 yuan a day, and supporting herself. I walked over. "Auntie, give me 2 eggs. She looked up and smiled. The wrinkles on her face gathered together. "Sure, just boiled them. They're still hot." She scooped up 2 tea eggs with a spoon, put them in a paper bag, and handed them to me. Her fingers were rough with cracked skin under her nails. "How much?" 2 yuan. I scanned 20 yuan to her. "Oh, young man, that's too much. Too much." "It's not too much." I took the paper bag. "Auntie, don't stay out selling too late in the future. Take care of your health." She froze for a moment. Then her smile widened even more. All right, you're such a polite kid." I took a bite of the tea egg. Salty, hot. In my previous life, by the time Wolf fed me, I could no longer taste anything. My tongue, like my stomach, had gone numb from sitting in that wheelchair for so long. Now the flavors of salt and tea burst in my mouth. I can taste it. I can stand, walk, eat, and live. Step out of the train station. The night breeze in the small town is neither cold nor hot. Just right. The street lights cast my shadow behind me. Only a shadow. No wheelchair. No cane. None of that useless trapped in a hospital bed waiting to die. The phone rang again. A text message from an unknown number. Linwan, I'm Chinlei's father. Your discharge paperwork has been processed. Right? I don't mean anything else. The choice you made wasn't wrong. What happened to my son was his own doing. It shouldn't be on you to pay for it. Live. Well, I stood under a street light and stared at this text message for a long time. Then I put my phone away. I looked up at the sky. There are no stars. The lights of the little town are too bright, hiding them all. But that's okay. In my last life, I searched for light in the darkness for 7 years. This life, the light is right beneath my feet. I take a step forward. Left foot, right foot. Each step lands firmly on the ground. Each step is my own in this lifetime. I owe no one a life, nor is there anyone worthy of me giving my life to. I am alive. That is enough. Honey, could you give this story a score in the comments on a scale of 10? Please, if you like this kind of story, please tap follow.